Hi everyone, it's Erin, me. I'm back again. I've got the privilege of teaching and doing a class for Everyday Hero for Celebr8. I absolutely love this collection. It's very versatile for pretty much anything. The timing worked out perfectly for my kids' school photos that we got back. And my kids are my heroes. So they've really worked hard for what they've achieved. So I'm super proud of them. And that's what we are going to be scrapping today. People who have inspired us and mean something to us. So Everyday Hero, I just used a bulk pack. So in the bulk pack, you obviously get your nice thick paper pack, your 2 chipboards, and your acetate. We're going to cut all the projects together once and then assemble. So this was one of the projects. Another one. Another one. First of the 2 singles. And then the very last single. So that's what we'll be doing in class today. So when you're doing the cutting, I'll ask you to put them into 5 different piles. Each item that we cut is labeled with a number and a letter. The number represents what layout it is, and the letter will be when we assemble for that particular layout. So let's get started. Here's the cover. You get 2 of them. I fussy cut just one of these sheets. So you didn't need to fussy cut both. You've got a spare one to do cards or whatever with your scraps. But when you have time, just fussy cut. Just note the barcodes in this collection in particular are really beautiful and very useful. Some lovely sayings, words, pictures. It's really, really lovely. So the first page is Hero. We're going to cut out the barcode on both of these sheets. Both of these sheets go into pile 1 for your very first layout. So keep those aside, marked as pile 1. The next 2 sheets, bold. Going to do the same thing. Just cut out the barcodes. Nice, slow, simple start. And this is the start of pile 2. And you guessed it, Brave. Again, both sheets of Brave, barcodes off. That's start of pile 3. Right, then we're needing to get a page strong. It's beautiful wood on the front and a stunning black on the back. Just one of the sheets, we're going to cut the barcode off. That is start of pile number 4. Excuse me. And then this sheet, Confidence. Just one of the sheets. Cut the barcode strip off. And that is pile number 5. So you should have the start of all 5 projects. Just moving a bit of space here. So when you label the pages or the pieces of paper from, let's say, I'll take first piece of paper. First piece we're going to cut is called Courageous. When we cut them, see there it says 4B. So that will go into the 4th pile. And then when we assemble, that's when the B will come in handy. So this will be for the second layout, 2nd pile, 3rd pile, 5th pile, and so on. I will take it nice and slow so you have time to just make sure you put everything in the right piles. If you get a bit confused, don't worry, we'll go through it slowly when we assemble, but I would recommend put sticky notes on just to make sure your piles are kind of staying where they need to be. So the first page, as I said, courageous, this is where we do multiple cuts. I just cut the barcode off. Look at these barcodes. They're really amazing. You'll see I use quite a few of them in my projects when I got to decorating. We are going to now measure 5.5 across from the top. So do note, this is alphabetical. So you've got to make sure it is facing the right way. 5.5 along the top. And cut all the way down. Then we're going to measure, it's basically 8.25. So not a fifth, 8.25. Sorry, 8.5, my bad. 8.5, just correct that quickly. Don't get confused later. 8.5. That would be B4. B4 goes onto pile 4. The black piece of paper should be down in the pile already. Then from the remainder piece, we are going to measure 5.5 across and just trim off a little bit off the edge. So it's on its side. We're going to measure at 1 3/4. 1 3/4. Down. That's pile 3. So we'll have a small offcut. Within, we're going to measure at 1 inch. It's a tricky one to cut, 1 inch. And that is 5B. So far we have cut 3 pieces. We still have this nice big piece left. Again, make sure the writing is the right way up. So we're going to cut across the writing. So that's the right way up. We're flipping it on its side. And we're going to measure 9 inches. It should already be 6.5 wide. Here it is. This is for pile 2, C, pile 2, letter C. From your offcut piece, again the letters, it should already be 3 inches. So you're going to keep those 3 inches, and we're going to do it upside down, measure 4 inches. And sorry, 4.25. It's 4.25. 4.25, and that's pile 2. So you have a few little offcuts. These are all just little offcuts. So just to recap, we have 4B, 5B, 2D, 2C, and 3D. So they can all go onto the appropriate piles. Next sheet of the same paper. Again, we're going to cut the barcode off. So a lot of cutting now, but then when we start assembling, everything's ready, waiting to go, which is fantastic. The first cut, again, check the writing. We're going to measure 10.5 across the top and cut all the way down. Get a swivel on a side. And we are going to measure at 1.5 and cut across. Before you do that cut, just make sure you want your writing to go that way. Right. So it's 10.5 by 1.5. And that's 3D. 3D. For your remaining big piece, I'm going to measure along the top again. So along the top, we're going to measure at 7.5. 7.5 inches. And cut all the way down. Swivel it on its side. We're going to measure at 5.5. And label that 1C. So 7.5 by 5.5, 1C. From the offcut, we're going to just trim off a little bit. So it was currently sitting at, well, is currently sitting at 7.5 inches. We just want to trim it down to 7 inches. So it ends up being 7 by 5 inches. That's 3C. We have a long offcut. It should already measure 3 inches wide. Now flip it on its side and measure at 4.5 inches. 4.5 inches. That's 5C. And then you have this long skinny strip we cut off in the very beginning. We're going to measure at 5.5 inches. Trim down. And then we're going to measure at 1 inch. So it's just a little piece. And that is going to be 5D. All these little pieces are just offcuts. There was a spelling mistake on one of the layouts. She'll need to go back and we're going to have to just cut out the appropriate letters to correct it. There is also an electronic file that you can download and get other titles to stick over, directly over. But these are options for if you want to just correct that spelling mistake. Next page. It's beautiful rusty dots, but I really like the other page. It's very simple, but I just loved it. It's called Kind-Hearted. Kind-Hearted. I'm going to cut the barcode off. These barcode strips, you're not going to use all of them on these projects, but they are so nice to keep little cards or gift tags. The wording is just so encouraging and beautiful. I just had to find the courage to take that first step. How beautiful is that? And how true is that? Okay, the next cut is going to be along the top, although it doesn't really matter, but this side it does. Obviously, the rectangles are going landscape. And we're going to measure at 7 inches and cut all the way down. And then again on its side, 7 inches. Nice square. And cut all the way down. So it's a 7 by 7, and that is 2E. So on pile 2, let's say E. From your offcut piece, it is already sitting at 7.5. Sorry, this is supposed to be 7 inches. It's supposed to be sitting at 7 inches already. Then we're going to flip it on its side and cut it at 2.5. 2.5. Which means the remaining piece should also be 2.5. So those are pieces E5 and EF. Or 5E, 5F. So for pile 5, E and F. That's a lovely long piece left. We are going to flip it on its side again. So it looks like portraits, little rectangles. And we are going to measure at 6.5. 6.5. Cut down. Flip it on its sides. The rectangles in our landscape again. And we are going to measure at 4.5. Cut down. That is 1D. So layout 1, letter D. These are offcuts. Second of the same paper. See, barcode off. We're going to go with the rectangles being a landscape. And we are measuring at 5 inches. And cutting down. Flip it on its side again. Measure at 7 inches. What am I doing here? Measure at 7 inches. That's 1E, layout 1, letter E. This should be already 5 inches. And then we're going to just chop off 1 inch. Top of that. 1 inch. Which is going to be 5C. So layout 5, letter C. This rectangle is just a spare. Then we have your big piece left over, which should be already 7 inches wide. Flip it on its side. The rectangles are portraits. And measure at 4.5 inches. And that will be 5J. 5J. And another decent size offcut. This beautiful paper, absolutely beautiful. So we only have one piece of this paper left in our pile because it was the base for layout 4. So we're only cutting one of them. One should already have its barcode off, and there was the start of pile 4. This is now the second sheet. Take the barcode off. It's very tricky when Dennis puts two beautiful pieces of paper back to back. It's very tough. I know the black is just a plain black, but it's just so bold and striking. I have to use it. And then this beautiful wood, like, oh, what do I do? But hopefully we've made the most of both of them. So we're measuring 6.5. Now you got your chevron type wood pattern going down. Turn it on its side. So it's going sideways. And we're going to measure at 6.5. Cut through. Working on a 6.5 strip. We're going to measure 4.5. 4.5. And a second 4.5. The two 4.5s are 3F and 3G, both for layout 3. And your offcut piece is 5G. So these two for layout 3, for layout 5. Your remaining offcuts, we're going to measure 7.25 along the top. 7.25. So you've got your 7.25. Going to flip it on its side and measure 1.5. 1.5. And then a second piece also at 1.5. So these two pieces are exactly the same. 7.25 by 1.5. It's 1F and 1G. So for layout 1. 1F and 1G. And you still got this piece left over. We're going to trim it down. It was a 7.25. We are now going to make it 6.5. 6.5. Down. And then we're going to cut it in half. So it ends up being 1.25. 1.25. With these tricky little ones to cut, it is quite an obvious thing, but sometimes the obvious is not so obvious. When you're cutting on your grid, your paper, sometimes you don't have enough to make it straight. So you're not quite sure if you're cutting it straight. That's what these little lines here are for, just to help guide your pages. So if you go 1.25, look how much space there is there. Make sure it's about the same amount of space at the top. Place down. And there you go. And that is 1H and 1I. 1H and 1I. So these two are also both for layout 1. And the rest is offcuts. Right, give you a second to breathe. It's a lot of cutting, but as I said, we're doing 3 double layouts and 2 single layouts. And for those who haven't been taught by me before, I love to layer. So there's a lot of paper going on, but it really adds to the effect. Just hope everybody's able to keep up. Remember, you're welcome to pause the video and just work at your own pace. This is supposed to be fun, not stressful. So please just take it as you want. Stop whenever you want. I'm going to be moving on to the next page, which is determined. Determined. There is a right way and a wrong way. Again, if you look at those rectangles behind, because the numbers are kind of go all over the place, but the rectangles behind need to be landscape. So we're going to cut the barcode off. And for ease sake, I'm just going to cut this page into its quarters. So each rust block has its own. Please don't do this with the second page. Just this one, and then we'll work from the box. Okay, so we have our 4 rusty pieces. So the first piece we're going to take, we are going to measure, it doesn't matter which, they're all fairly similar, really doesn't matter, as long as it's a rust block. We're going to measure the first one at 4.5 along the top. There is top and bottom, so if you're not sure, look at the numbers at the back, but the rust is running upwards. If you kind of see movement in the paper, the rest is, the lines are going vertical. Okay, so we're measuring 4.5. Off. And that is 2G, layout 2, letter G. So there are 2G. I was getting my pals confused. Okay, 2G. This is an offcut. Next piece we're going to work from, any square, doesn't matter. Another 4.5. So the 4.5 by 6 is now 2F. 2F. So exactly the same as the other size was. That's 2F. Your remaining little piece should be 1.5 by 6. That's 3I. 3I. Next square. All right. Just want to make sure I cut this properly with you. We are going to measure 2.5. 2.5 all the way through, and it should already be 6 inches because we've cut the block. So it's 2.5 by 6, 3H. And now this should already be, oh no, it's not, my bad. Okay, so this one we're going to cut down to 2.5. Too clever sometimes. Okay, so 2.5. So remember the rust is running upwards, 2.5, and then swivel it on its side and cut it at 3 3/4. 3 3/4. And that is 2H. 2H. And at this stage, the numbers are more important than the letters, so make sure you put the right numbers in the right piles. Your last rust square, we're going to measure 4 1/4 again. And cut all the way down. I mean, sorry, 4 1/2, not 4 1/4, 4 1/2, all the way down. So that's 4 1/2 by 6. 1J, layout 1J. Little off-cut piece. We're really going to cut a small piece now. We're needing this piece to be a total of 1 inch wide. So put it in portraits. See how the lines work up there, line it against the lines. And 1 inch. And then we're going to flip it on its side and cut at 4 1/2. 4 1/2. So that's 1K. 1K. Layout 1, letter K. Then we're moving on to the second piece of that paper, but we're wanting to use the front for part of this. So it is important to keep it together. You can see the rest of the back here. Keeping it as one sheet for now, because we need the full 12 inch across. So we're going to cut 2 strips that are 12 inches long, and 1 1/4 in height. So let's put 1 1/4, 1 1/4, 1 1/4. See the second ruler at the bottom also helps you line things up when it's a full sheet. 1 1/4. And while we're there, we are going to do a second one at 1 1/4. So you've got 2 strips of 12 by 1 1/4. These are 1M and 1L. Layout 1 for both of them, M and L. You've got this lovely big off-cut piece. Cut the barcode strip off. So I don't cut through it and waste a beautiful barcode. And then I'm going to flip it on its side so the writing is facing the right way up. And we're going to measure 6 inches. 6 inches. For those who are using the Tim Holtz tonic cutters like mine, the exact same, it's not marked, but there's a line right at the end here. That's your 6 inch mark there. Right at the end there. So although it's not marked, it's there. So you know what you're working towards. 6 inch, flip it on its side, and at 4 inches. So you got a 6 by 4 landscape orientation. That is for layout 4, letter G. And you have quite a few leftovers as well. Next sheet is this beautiful wood, really, really beautiful wood. I used the wood side, although I'm going to cut from the back. I did use the wood. It was just easier to show you on the drawing where the lines are. I absolutely love this wood. So we're going to cut the barcode off. And then we are going to measure 7.5. Oh, hold on, let's stay 8.5 from the top. So 8.5 inches along the top. All the way down. Take your 8.5, flip it on its side, and cut at 7.5. 7.5. So the big piece, the 8.5 by 7.5, is 3J. The smaller piece, 8.5 by 4.5, is 2I. So I'm going to trim a little bit here and take the barcode off. Quite right. Okay, so you have one for layout 3, and this is for layout 2. The remaining piece, you're going to flip on its side, and we are going to cut at 7.5. So it ends up being 7.5 by 3.5. That is 3K, layout 3, letter K. And you still have a little rectangle left, which we're going to just trim down to be 2.5. And it's already by 4.5. 2.5 by 4.5. And that is going to be 5G. So layout 5, letter G. Second sheet of the beautiful wood. Barcode off. And as I was saying about the barcodes, that's just really pretty. Simple but beautiful. Okay, flipping it over, so the wood grain is going horizontal. We are going to measure at 5 inches and cut all the way through. Flip it on its side. Measure at 7.5, not 7. Oh, there we go, 7.5. 7.5. That is 1 N. Layout 1 N. So it's 5 by 7.5. From your offcut piece, so it is already 4.5 wide. We are going to cut 1.5 off the top. So 1.5 by 4.5. Another 1.5 by the 4.5. And then you have offcut piece. So the 1.5 by 4.5s, there's 2 of them, 4D and 4E. So for layout 4, letters D and E. Your remaining piece is for layout 2, 2J. So that's 2 by 4.5. We still have this big offcut piece. We're going to flip it on sides. We're going to be cutting with the grain. We are cutting it at 6.5. 6.5. So flip it again. So the wood is going horizontal. And we are going to measure 4.5. 4.5. So this is for layout 1. It's supposed to be an O, not a 0. O, 1, O, just 4.5 by 6.5. And then the other piece is for layout 2, letter K, 2.5 by 6.5. Piles are going nicely now. But quite a big offcut piece. Now I know I'm going to be moaned at, but I love this wood. This is what I was saying about Dennis putting 2 beautiful things back to back. You've got this beautiful wood, and then you have all these beautiful fussy cut elements. Thankfully, you have 2 sheets of it. So a strategic way I cut, so please pay attention when we're cutting. Just cut the barcode off the first one for now. Take this nice and slow. First sheet, just the barcode for now. Okay. And you can see, obviously, the top, working way to the bottom. I cut now from the top side. So we are going to measure 7 inches. So you see what it looks like from behind. 7 inches from the top down. 7 inches from the top down. So we're cutting with the patterns. Right. Then we're going to measure 9. Right. So we have 2 pieces, 7 by 9, which is 3L, and a 3 by 7, which is 5H. Just put those here for now. You still got these 2 fussy cuts, and I made quite a lot of use of these. And then on the last layouts, I used these quite a bit as well. So we still have these to play with. Although we've cut quite a bit of the paper away, we still have these. But now when we get to the second sheet, we're going to cut away from the bottom section so we can still use all of that up at the top. So let's cut the barcode off. So now we want to cut from the bottom. So we've got to make sure, remember here's the writing, nice and easy. Make sure we're cutting from the bottom. So we are going to flip it upside down. Let's see, so let's just all face this way. Turn it over as if it was a book. Then rotate clockwise. And before you cut, please just make sure before you cut, just flip it over. You should see light bulbs and arrows. Light bulbs and arrows on your cutting side. Light bulbs and arrows. And then we are going to measure 5 inches. 5 inches. If you want to just double check the side that you're cutting off, it's got all your beautiful titles. Together, love this. That's on the bigger piece that we're cutting off. So we're going to cut at 5. So this lovely big piece, we're keeping. We're not going to cut anymore. This is going to be for fussy cutting. So this piece, please just keep aside. So you have a top and a bottom kind of left. We're just missing a little bit in between here. Tiny bit in between there. So we still got most of it we can play with. Then we're going to take the piece we just cut and measure at 7 inches and cut down. Yeah. So it's 7 by 5, and that's 3M. So between those 2 sheets, we've only cut 3 pieces. So we still have all this to fussy cut and play with. So when it gets to a situation where you like both sides of the piece of paper, and maybe there's a particular spot that you don't really like the arrows are only used once. So I didn't mind sacrificing the arrows for another layout because I've got them here for only one project. But I really use these a lot. So I have up there, there. I kept as many of those as I could. So just manipulate the paper to work for how you're wanting your layouts to turn out. So your piece that is 3 by 7 inches is 5, layout 5, H. The 7 by 5 inches, 7 by 5 is 3, layout 3, M. And the nice big piece, 9 inches by 7 inches, is 3L, layout 3L. Right. That is the tricky cutting done. While we are here though, I'd like to just cut one of these apart. So this is called dependable. Cut the barcode off. And we're just going to cut along the lines. going to leave all these in one pile, and then when we're needing the pieces, I'll just scavenge through that. It's part of the embellishment, as well as a part of some of the layouts. Need to cut these apart. On the back of these little squares are cute little journaling blocks. I actually used one as a journaling block. Just to add a little extra. So you can see clearly there, but that's just one of the back of the blocks. Just a nice way to add some detail and remember what the photo was actually about. I'm just going to cut them all apart for now. We'll do the same with the second sheet. Cut it apart so we have it ready and waiting when we start sending. Just put all those pieces in one pile and we'll scavenge through it. So you might want to change one of the titles that I use. You prefer something else. So that's just going to be your scratch through and make the layouts your own. There was a crazy amount of cutting, but we are getting there quite quickly, actually. You'll see if you're nervous about cutting all of them apart, they're already been designed to be cut apart. So they're double-sided. So you're not going to waste anything. How to start a new thing recently. I really don't like my own handwriting. It's messy and it's just ugly. And I feel like it ruins my layouts. So I now get Dennis to do a little bit of journaling for me on my layouts. Or I was given a stamp set. I stamp some wording in, anything but using my own writing. But I think it's more, as more time goes on, I think the importance of journaling has become more apparent to me. Like in 10 years time, 20 years time, am I going to remember? Let's take this. What were these photos about? What year was it? But then I can look down here. I can see it's all the wars, what year it was. And when Faith has her children one day, she could look back and it's like, yeah, all my hard work pays off, and show her kids back when she was only 12. That's what she managed to achieve through all her hard work. So this is very important. Right, I think that is most of the cutting. We have this sheet as well. We only have one of these left because the other one was a backing for layout 5. I did use a few of these frames, which we'll need to fussy cut a bit later. I'll give you some time to sand your pages. I'll sand them with you. And then we need to fussy cut. Let's grab the ones I used. You have to do all of them. So I used Memory, Amazing, and Perfect. Now, just because something has been made a certain way doesn't mean it has to stay that way. So, for example, Amazing, the photo I've got that goes in here was being covered too much. So I just used the first row of little cubes as my inner line and trimmed out. So the frame is very skinny, but I don't end up covering so much of my photo. So just consider your photo before you stick anything on. If you need to make the frame a bit skinnier, go for it. If you don't, well, that's also great. This one, I also made it a bit skinnier. Didn't want to lose faces. And this one, it just cuts off the lighter colored blocks from the middle out. Let's see, yeah. And these are optional. It's a case of if you know what photos you're using. My photos are already been printed, so I couldn't resize them. And that's why I had to just trim this down. I didn't want to have half the face showing in the picture. So it's just those 3 that you'll need for the projects. So I'm just going to put them there like that. So it's Memory, amazing, and perfect. And that's it here. That's the last one there. Right, then I'm going to start sanding away. I actually love sanding our paper. I know I'm biased and whatnot because it's our brand, but especially with the darker paper. So I'm going to start with pile 5, keep everything in my piles. I take my mat to the edge of my table. I did show you last time, but just in case some people haven't watched that one. So say this is my table. Take craft mat to the edge, and I go like that. You end up with this beautiful white finish. Thing here. So you can see like a white outline. Because the core of our paper is white. She likes it some grays. But if you do it on a flat surface and go like that, you can change your angle easily, as well as keeping control of where you're sanding. So I'm going to sand away, and then we can start assembling. See, for the quick sanders, you're welcome to fussy cut some elements. Instead of only fussy cut one of the cover sheets, you're welcome to fussy cut more. If there's a fussy cut, I'll show you in detail where I put my stuff, but that's where you make it your own. You really don't need to copy me 100% unless you want to. Okay, so I'm working for pile 5 first. Just so you aware, for pile 5, using the wood grain on that side, I'm using, let me flip this over. I'll do pile 5 at the same time. I'm using the wood grain side of 5G. If you don't like sanding, you don't have to sand. If you prefer to chalk, go for it. Okay, I'm using using the beautiful wood. Smooth. 5J. Use the white side, journaling side. I do a lot of sanding. So I really go through sanding blocks, boards and things. Now I just revert to getting the cheapest little things I can get. And then if it only lasts 1 or 2 layouts, it really doesn't matter. I've labeled this one incorrectly. This is supposed to be 4C. So 5C is actually 4C. Sorry about that. 5C is 4C. I'm just going to put onto the 4 pile. 5F. Also use the white side. I just apologize that this video has been done quite a while after launching. We have building happening next door to us. So to try and get a quiet space to actually video has been very interesting. And when it is quiet, then it's load shedding, or it's time for the kids to go to the extramurals, or whatever the case may be. So I'm actually recording this Friday evening. The workers have all gone. The house is quiet. The kids have been told to stay in their rooms. But it's nice and peaceful. The house has been just, oh, there's no boundary wall between the new building and our home. Yeah. Have their music playing and they sing and very happy, but it's just really lovely. You hear people working so happily, but oh, when you just want quiet, it's been getting a bit much. 5D, used the cream side. When the papers have squares, it really helps when we start assembling to make sure everything's nice and square and lined up. This is really a boring part. You're welcome to mute me if you're with a bunch of friends. I will not be offended in any way. I won't even know. But I would be. You guys can all joke around with each other. At 5C, I use the lettering side. Just be aware of that. That is pile 5. So you have your base. Show you all got the same pieces at the same time. Right, we have 5V, 5C, 5D, 5E, 5F. Would appear we have 2 5Gs. Yep, we have 2 5Gs. 5G, sorry about that. And we have 5H and J. So one of the G's needs to be an I. So let's change the wood grain one to be an I. So the 2.5 by 4.5 on the wood grain side is 5I, I for indigo. Okay, so for this layout, we should have a total of, including the base page, should have together 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So pile 5, you should have 10 pieces of paper. I'm going to put that aside. This will be the last layout we put together. So put this somewhere safe. And move on to pile 4, which was a beautiful black base. Trim down. On accident. Trim down. So pile 4. I used the lettering side of 4B. I'm going to be sneezing just now from all the snow. 4C, so this is the one we took from the previous pile. It was originally marked 5C. It's actually supposed to be 4C. And I used the dotty side. It's a bit complicated when you're doing 5 layouts simultaneously to make sure you have all the labeling and measurements, and quite a challenge. Enjoyed it. definitely need to work on it. It's the dotty side, and that is 4C. And we have 4D. Move on to the wood grain side. 4D. 4D, the wood grain side. 4E is also going to be the wood grain side. E. And then we have 4G. It's the number side. So for layout 4, we have our base page. We have 4B. We have 4C. We have 4D, 4E, and 4G. Would appear that I'm missing a block. Okay, we'll get around to that. I'll find it as we go along. There is a block missing. But that's so far for pile 4. We'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 including the base. At this stage, I will get that missing piece shortly. Then we're going to go on to pile 3. It is more than enough paper to cut that missing piece if I haven't cut it yet. All right, so pile 3, we have our 2 base pages. Flip one around, and that's how they're going to go together. They're exactly the same. So don't get confused when you stick them together. That's going to be exactly the same front and back. So no confusion is needed. Simple, easy. So those 2 are base pages for layout 3. And then we are going to be using 3L. We're using the white wood grain. L wood. Okay, I found the missing piece. This is supposed to be for layout 4. So 3M is actually for layout 4. Check that. It is for layout 4. So just change to 4M. Sorry about all these. Okay, so I'm just going to do it and then put it onto pile 4, and then we can put pile 4 away. So 3M is actually 4M. Quickly sand that, and we can put on pile 4. And then put pile 4 separately. Okay, so that completes pile 4. Just to go through pile 4 quickly again. You have your black base, the lettering. Now you have a lovely wood grain. You have 2 wood, darker woods. You have rusty dots, and then you have numbers. So that is for pile 4. Back to pile 3. We got our 2 base pages, and we've sanded now 3L. Move on to 3K. Use the wood grain. Just going to put these out for those who are quick at sanding, just so they know which ones to fussy cut. There we go. Those ones. Okay. Three J's, also back to the brown wood. Oh, the scrape work, and then we're just going to fly through assembling. Basically a bit of an album going on. 3 double layouts and a front and back page. Not bad. Okay, so that's 3J, 3H, using the rust. Little hack. I'm quite a lazy scrapper. Anybody who's been taught by me in person knows that. See, I didn't quite cut the barcode off 100%. She's not focusing. But you can see there's a thin mark of the barcode. When you're sanding, you don't have to worry about that. It's thin enough. You just sand it off. So don't try to cut that fine little sliver off. Just sand it. Again, with these the rust blocks, there was a white line between all of them. Don't worry about trimming that off. You're doing the sanding, you're wanting a white finish anyway, so you just sand over it. So 3H is rust. 3I is also the rust side. So I mean by the white line. Once I've sanded that, you won't even see that line. It'll be part of the sanding. Just quickly do it. Can't even tell that I didn't cut it properly. We often fuss about things that really don't matter. On a line out to cut a fine sliver off on a guillotine is not fun. And scissors. Normally you go skew. Just sand it. Sanding is good. Okay, so that's 3I on the rust side. 3F and G are both on these beautiful wood grains, the chevron wood. If your sand is getting full of muck, and we just whack it, it helps if you just whack it on your jeans. Your jeans get a bit white, but then it gets to be nice and gritty again. So that is 3 F and G. F and G. And we're going on to 3C. Used the beige side. C. And we have 2 3Ds. Both are going on the letter side. The letter side. Oopsie. Oh well, a bit more rustic. Okay, those are the 2 3Ds. So pile 3, we have our 2 base pages that are going to go side by side. 1 2 pieces. We have the wood, white wood, brown wood 1, brown wood 2, 2 of the wood chevrons, 2 rust, 2 letters, and 1 square. So a total of 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 pieces on pile 3. So make sure you have 12 pieces on pile 3. Moving on to pile 2. So this was the black background. Got the 2 pieces. Black backgrounds again. Line up. That's going to be your base. Start sanding. Sanding on this one. Well, so pieces 2I and 2K. I used the brown wood. Those. I and 2K. Almost done with sanding. First layout, then first layouts, and then we can start with Celebr8. Then move on to 2F and 2G. These are the rust pieces. You'll see again the little white line here. I'm not going to fuss about it. I'm just going to sand over. So that is 2F and 2G. And this 2H is also a rust piece. H. 2E is the 7x7. I'm using the white side. Two C and D. I used the beige side of both of those. Beige side. Okay, so that is pile 2. Just gonna go through it together. Pile 2 is your 2 black base pages. Then we have 1, 2 brown woods. Then you have 1, 2, 3 rust. You have 1 white and 2 beige. So just go through that. It's 2 sheets here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So pile 2 should have 10 pieces of paper. Into layout 1. Layout 1. Again, the 2 base pages. Rid of that. Start of layout 1. Layout 1 for 1N using the brown wood. So 1N. Here's the block. Sorry, I found my 2J in the 1 pile. So that's why we're going through this together. You should have had a piece in your 2 pile if you put your piles together properly. So just do the 2J. Probably you guys have probably put in the right pile and done it already. So I'm just fixing my mistake, putting 2 in his 2 pile, not his 1 pile. 2J. There it is. Okay, so back to pile 1. 1N and 1O are on the woods. 1N and 1O. Sand those. You hear a funny noise in the background. the wind. So I either to contend with the wind here in Jeffreys Bay or boulders through the sound of wind. So I think we just stick with the wind. Right, so those are pieces 1N and 1O. R1. Just double check this if you're looking. Right, and we have F, G, H, and I. 4 strips. They're all going to be on the black side. F is on the black. G is on the black. H is on the black. And I is on the black. Imagine doing all this without labeling the pieces. So much fun something. It's done with sanding. And when I first started scrapbooking, if I finished one double layout in a week, just one in an entire week, I would be so proud of myself. That's not with photos, that's just the layout. And here we are together working on 3 doubles and 2 singles, way more complicated than when I started, in one evening, or depending on when you're watching this, one evening, one morning, in a few hours. There were assembles. 5 projects. Amazing how things change. We're going to have, okay, please, with 1J, do not sand the bottom. Let's trim it a little bit. 1J, do not sand the bottom. What we're going to do, these pieces are going to be joined together. And if you sand the edges, it's going to be very obvious there's 2 separate pieces. On the layout, it's a backing for that. So once that's on, you don't notice, but if we sand a white line there, then you're going to notice that they're 2 separate pieces. So when you're sanding 1J, just sand the top and the 2 long sides. Leave the bottom. Just like that. Left, top, and right. And obviously with 1K, you don't need to do the top side. There's going to be flipped on the side. So we do the long side and 2 shorter sides, but leave the second long side because that's going to be tucked underneath anyway. Then pieces L and M are on the number sides. Nothing complicated here, just sand away. It's funny with pieces like these that are already quite white. I'm so tempted not to sand them because it doesn't make much of a difference. But when you don't sand and you put the project together, somehow it sticks out like a sore thumb that you didn't actually sand those pieces. No one else would notice. It's just you know that you've done the project and everything else would have done to a certain standard, and then a little bit of laziness kicked in and you didn't sand the white pieces. It does seem a bit pointless to sand white to make white, but oh, I don't know, it just gets to be. If you don't want to and it doesn't get to you, you can leave the white pieces. As I said, you'll be the only one who notices. So L and M. Then E and D are the white sides again. So again, if you don't understand, you really don't have to. Just put it supposed to be up the first. It all looks the same. They all have our curls, I suppose. One, two. That's 1D and E. And then we left with 1C. 1C, I used the beige side. Right. That is sanding done. Let's just check pile one. Pile one, you've got your two-base pages. Then you have okay, so you have A and B, your main pages, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. 15 pieces on pile one. May as well keep pile one in front of us because we're going to start assembling pile one first. Just to show you again which one was one. It's this layout. It's pile one. This one, when I assembled it, I did do quite a lot of dimension. But when I'm assembling now, I'm going to just assemble it flat. It has a very similar effect. I just want to try and make it into a book form. So obviously I've got the dimensioned one for the frame. Now I'm wanting to do one for my album. So this is the one we are going to start assembling first. So here we go with our first double layout. Put it back here for a second. This is our first one. The light's catching. So it's nice double. The center line is here, so you can still cut it to put it in your album. Just keep that in mind if you are putting in an album. Let's get cracking. Apart from all the items in pile 1, we had the frame that I spoke about, the perfect. We'll need that frame. We'll need a portrait shaped title. Check. This is the only portrait title I use in a layout, so you can change it to another one. You can find one more. You prefer that one, let's say. So you're welcome to, but I quite like this one. And then you will need a few of the blocks that we cut out as well. So 2 stars. One just be you. 1 crown. And the second crown, but I'm using the back for journaling. So those are the additional items that you're going to be needing during assembly. So if you want to pause and get those done, you're welcome to. I'm going to quickly sand my title, so I haven't done that yet. Unfortunately, we do need this frame to complete the layouts. These can be added on afterwards, but if you want to do the frame, you do stick a piece of paper underneath it before we can stick it on, and then the photo goes on. Just to complete the look. Oh, you do that. I'm going to sand. Again, joys of having something recorded. You're welcome to pause it and just carry on when you have a chance. It does feel very weird talking through a camera, knowing no one's behind there because it's pre-recorded. But ultimately, someone's going to be listening at some point, I hope. Very weird. Something to get used to. I suppose in the UK, on a live TV show, again, the side of the camera, but it was live, and there were people watching live, and that was very scary, especially when we have little slang words that we use here in South Africa that really are quite rude in the UK, which I was made aware of while I was teaching a class in the UK. So, yeah, no, it's a bit scary. And only South Africans will understand, you'll know. We all have our little quirks. Almost onto assembly. I like to assemble my layouts as a double, and then you can trim them down afterwards. This makes everything lining up so much easier. I'm just going to put this frame in the corner here. So that's the frame we are going to be needing to add. Here are our 2 base pages. Let's flip it over. Should line up. Grab my tape quickly. Take this. I'm just going to put 3 strips along the back too. Make it into 1 double for now. Cut through them, and I want to separate them. Right now, just want 1 double out. There we go. That's our start already. Next up, we are going to be needing our black pieces. So the black pieces were F, G, H, and I. F, G, H, and I. So our very first layer. All right, so you'll notice that two of the pieces are a bit skinnier than the other two. So we have our 7 1/4 by 1 1/2 and 6 1/2 by 1 1/4. So we're going to be using F and G first. We'll just put tape on the back of all 4 of them at this stage. And then just, you know, as we go. Oh, goodness. So tape on all 4 of them. First piece, some space here, is going to be, say, G. And we're going to line it up. See the cards here? There's a line coming up from the cards. So we're actually going to use the paper as our guide. There's like a rusty strip that comes up. It needs to be to the right of the cards, above the top card. So let's see how many blocks up. So you've got your star, top line of the star, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. Just want to make sure of that. It wrong. So it's about 2 inches up from the bottom. Yeah, 2 inches up from the bottom. And then in line with the central line. Let's stick that piece down. If you're wanting to go for dimension, you're welcome to. I wouldn't with the first layer because others are going to end up being very, very thick. But as you feel like it, you're welcome to layer it. I'm just going to measure the 2 inch marker again. 2 inch. And then the side. We have our lines that we can use to help us be straight. Right. Next. G1. Then we're going to put 1F in line with this, but at the top. I asked me to keep it lined up. Actually, going to use it this way so you can see the other line. So this one is going to go just down from the beigey bits. About 3/4 of an inch from the top. So put it there, 3/4 of an inch. Make sure it's all straight. So, lines up the edge. There we go. Nice and easy. And we take one of the other 2 pieces. So I'm going to go with H, and H is going to line up with the top of F. Flush next to it. Again, use your lines to be nice and straight. Paste down. Final one is I. Line up now with the bottom of G. Flush against. And nice and straight. Paste it down. So those are your black pieces in place. So take these little labels off. Don't need them anymore. So you've got F, G, H, and I stuck down. Next up is going to be L and M. Take them the back. M. Maybe these are the same, so it doesn't really matter which one goes where. Just make sure your numbers are facing the right way up. L and M. So I'm going to work with M from the top. M is approximately 1.5 inches from the top. 1.5 inches from the top. And 2.5. So what I do, I've got measurements like this. So it's about 2.5 inches on the side, on the black. So just put a little pencil mark. Then I said it was about 1.25 from the top. So line it up, 1.25. Roughly there, it looks about right. Just put little pencil dots, and then I know where that dot is. That's my top corner. And the guessing work is taken out of it. And paste it down. So that's M. Then we're going to do the same with L. But this time it's about 2.5 inches from the bottom. 2.5 inches from the bottom. I've already got it lined up here, so I'm going to turn my ruler over. 2.5 inches from the bottom. 2.5. See. Looks about right. Make sure it's nice and straight for the top one. Down it goes. So that is L and M in place. Next up is going to be some wood grains. So we have IO, or 1O, sorry, and 1N. 1O and 1N. Ultimately, they're going to be going here and here, roughly. Just tape on the back of them. You can hear that there's a bit of thunder. Wonderful. Not many people know, but the J Bay, Jeffreys Bay, has been in a drought ever since we moved here. So it's been almost, so it's about 6.5, almost 7 years. So when we hear anything that sounds like good rain, we get quite excited. Our dam hasn't been over 15% in a very long time. Yes, bit of a shocking situation. And the rest of the country all has floods. We have a drought. So we have floods ahead above us. East London's have floods. Then we have floods that's just below us. George and Mossel Bay have had floods, but not us. We just have our droughts. So if you're on a sunny holiday, can't guarantee the wind will be any good, but you can come here for sun. Right, so 1O, smaller of the two pieces. Let's do that one first. We use the page itself to line up. So the treasured moment, the MO, I'm going to cover the rest. Okay. This is a little small. We're trying to fill in the gap between the two black. But spacing crosswise needs to be just past the O. And fill in. So we're filling in that gap between the two black pieces. And you can stick that one down. Then within, we're going to take the base page as this cute little arrow. We're going to fill up gaps. So it's going to be the arrow lining up quite nicely next to the memory. It overlaps the black. All right, let's make sure she goes up above. It's in line with that. Pretty much. And make it straight. And stick it down. So that's N and O. Next up is going to be 1C. E. See how it's all going to go together. There. Okay, let's do K. Let's make the pieces first. So we're going to do this little trick. Right. So the rust pieces I couldn't get a big enough piece. The largest we could get was a 6x6, and I needed to have it a little bit bigger than that. So I'm just going to join a few pieces together to make a fake extension. So there's a on top side here, and on here. Right, so you're going to stick them. Before I do it, I just want to show you what it's going to look like. Stick them like that. So it just extends it by a little bit. So extending it by 1/2 inch. Good way to check is to take our title. Title needs to fit nicely on there. So we're just wanting 1/2 inch to stick out. So I just put tape on the front side of the small piece. Back side of the big piece. I'm using my grid here. Set 1/2 inch, which is approximately 1 centimeter. So I'm just going to use my grid on my board. Use the long slide. Roughly. There and there. So Craft Mat is a really handy tool when you remember to actually use it. So now that's joined as one piece. So J and K are now one piece. Back to the bigger tape. Oh. Projects. That's there. So I'm going to stick in stick down the combo that we've just made. Overlaps the brown wood grain ever so slightly, but lines up to the top. Ever so slightly, just cover over where your sanding was. So it lines, there we go. And we're going to do the same. So we can take J and K off now. Then we're going to move on to 1C. And 1C. 1C is going to overlap the rust ever so slightly and go above and below it. You'll be left with a gap between the left-hand wood and the beige block. That's where I wanted to show you how these beautiful little barcode strips can come into play. Look how clever Dennis has been to make the barcodes match the paper. So we can extend this piece of paper with the barcode strip and add another element of interest. So, piece of tape along the back of barcode strip. So if you're looking for that particular strip, take over the number. See if I can find the other ones. It's just the plain stars and circles. Just what code that was. You're welcome to use another one. Okay, stars and circles. So that was from Charming, PP8411. So Charming. Okay, so now we know that this is 7.5 inches down. So I'm just going to grab my ruler. Where did I put it? 7.5 inches. At the stage of losing everything now. 7.5 inches. There's a line at that point. So I'm just going to use that bug. I'm going to sand it as well. I think once this last is completed, I'm going to have to, well, not completed, but assembled. I'm going to have to pause the video for just a few minutes just so I can clean my workspace and then continue because, oh, it's become quite a mess. Okay, so here goes our little barcode. Putting in that gap, overlapping ever so slightly again. Not waste any paper. And that's C1 with its barcode. Next up is D4. D4 is a photo mat. Nice big photo mat. that goes centered using the barcode strip as well. So you see your center of your pages here. So your photo is not going to get cut. And that's D1 down. Then we're going to have 1D. So now we have 1E left, which you're going to stick onto the frame. Obviously, if you have your photo, you can stick your photo onto this first and then this. Or all you can do is be sneaky in how you assemble. You just go right along the outside edge. So you can slide your photo in afterwards. To me, this really worked perfectly for school photos. A lot of pressure is put on kids nowadays. Like I see what my son is learning in grade 3 and my daughter in grade 7, and I'm like, they weren't even subjects like that when we were in school or when I was in school. Faith talks to me about programming and I have no idea what you're talking about. And Caleb is already doing multiplication and learning Causa, and I've never learned Causa. It's brilliant. It's absolutely amazing. But on top of that, they performing in sports and a very busy, active lifestyle. It's just it's quite mind-blowing. So for me, they are little heroes. Just the fact that they're managing to be kids in such a high-pressure environment. It's quite incredible. Okay, so that's how we got that on. And then it's not going to line up perfectly. The word is going to come down and actually go quite a bit down, because we're still wanting to see this title in here. So I think the easiest thing is to put this title in first. And as I said, you're welcome to change out the title. There is another portrait shape. Just try to find it so you can see what it was. Here we go. Life is short, live it. The adrenaline junkies out there. It's quite a nice one. The bike riders. I would really like this thing. It's very nice and squared on the rust. Then we're going to take this one, overlap on the rust a little bit, bring it quite far down. About there, I suppose. Wherever you feel comfortable. I quite like it about there. So you just see a little bit of the wood on the side here, but you're obviously not covering the title there. Stick it down. So we still want to see the wood. Still want to see the rust. And it's about there. That is 1E down. Then we have our little blocks left. I really like the stars, so I use 2 stars. If you prefer to use 2 crowns and 1 star, this way, you're welcome to. Completely up to you. If you don't want to journal, you can use other things, but that's how I've put it. Let's stick them down. So I did a star there, another star on the outside, the journaling block, and the crown. Start with the furthest to the left. This is a star on the bottom of your page, and there's a line at the bottom of the page. So I line it up with a line and just off the point of the star and stuck it down. Then the last one, let's do the third one. It's nice and easy. The third one I lined up with the central line and obviously this bottom line on the page again. Just gives you an idea for spacing. So there's our central line. There's that line at the bottom. Line one up and stick it down. So now we know that our journal block needs to fit nicely in the middle of those two. So you can judge that by eye. You know where your bottom line is. Judge the middle and stick it down. And then block number 4 needs to have a similar spacing away from the right hand one. And just stick it down. All right. These stars, they point upwards. That's just a little note if you're a bit OCD like I am. It looks funny when the stars are sitting funny. If you don't have your photo in place yet, but you don't want to lose your just be you, you're going to do a little sheet. Stick along. The right and the bottom. So this is going to go onto the frame, not the photo itself, and we can stick it in place without losing it. And you can still slide your photo in underneath it. So you line it up with the lines on the page and just stuck it down. There you go. So now you got space for your photos. 1, 2, 3. Obviously embellishing comes in. I'll show you the chipboard a bit later. Let me just show you the actual layout. So that's the construction there. I'll get Dennis to also upload a photo of the layout so you can see in detail the embellishing. But there's just a little pack of cards and some photo circles, stars. It's apparently a strip for lights to be put on. Some beautiful globes. I just had fun. This here, the branding with a, oh, my mind's gone blank. The journaling block. Okay, I've obviously put grade, and this 3 is from the acetate. So you take that from the acetate sheet. If you're doing a grade one, you can put whatever grade they're in because the numbers go all the way up. But I thought that was quite cute to actually use the number showing the significance of this year. But I will come back to the chipboard and show you how I did those. But that is the assembling of the paperwork of layout 1. I'm going to pause the video for a few seconds just so I can clean up. So you'll see it changes when I turn it back on. So I'll be with you in a minute. I'm back. The much better, clearer working space. Was such a mess. This is layout 2, our double layout. This is where I worked with the paper. It dispatched, it's gone to Oz, it's gone to the whole, our main distributor here in South Africa, it's gone to a whole lot of stores before you guys even get to see it. I'd worked through it. I've dealt with it. I'd taken photos of my layouts. I've done everything, and I didn't pick up on a mistake. Dennis had done the artwork. He had double, triple checked it. He had sent it through to the printers. He had had it edited, and no one picked it up. Legend. So this is why we've sent a link to change the title. So Dennis has done a digital format where you can print this, where it's got the correct spelling, and you can just stick it over. Or you can take the letters from your offcuts. So there's an E, go over the E, and then we just need to find an N from one of the other scraps. And but they are perfectly the same size. So that's where the spelling mistake came in. Just so you're aware, but you can cut out from one of the other fussy cut sheets to correct that. There is Superstar, but then things like that. There are options. So let's get cracking with the second layout. With the second layout, we are going to need pile 2. That little title thingy. That. And then there was another little frame in here. Yes, the little frame. So those 3. Now that looked a little confusing. This was from the quote sheet. I've fussy cut around it. See the difference? On the layout would have just been too chunky. Have it like that, where you put it just as a fussy cut. It looks quite different. So that's where that one came from. This little guy from so there was the quote on the back. There's a little thing saying perfect. I've just cut off the perfect and fussy cut around. That's what I've done for this one. And this was from the frames I showed you in the very beginning of the video. So while we are assembling, just keep in mind that you'll be needing those 3 goodies. And let's start with layout 2. Just have a quick look. Layout 2. My daughter was awarded Sportswoman of the Year last year for her netball, surfing, and chess. Very proud of her. I thought that was quite funny how she was holding her certificates. And then there's a set of cards in this collection. It was almost like she was holding a set of cards. So that I thought was quite amusing. Right, a little bit of history. This is why I love scrapbooking. Apart from her awards, this little girl, Angela, one of her very good friends from netball, I saw her in the netball field beginning of last year, and I was thinking, what is she doing on the field? She has no idea what she's doing. I felt terrible for her. I felt terrible for the team. By the end of last year, she was a dynamo. That's what I mean by heroes. This little girl went through humiliation because she just didn't know what she was doing. And she pushed through to receive the award with my daughter for most improved netball player of last year. And so well deserved. It really was amazing. And then this buddy here is Faith with her best friend Victoria, and they have been surfing together now for over a year, just over a year. And they have been through thick and thin together. Torn up feet, blue bottle stings, you name it, panic attacks, crazy surfballs on heads, you name it. They've been through it together, and they were awarded surfing trophy for the year combined together as well last year. So apart from the awards, the stories behind these awards that make it so special. Let's get started. So we're working with pile 2. Some organized here. Pile 2. All right. Just gonna move these off. There you go. Right. The base of pile 2 is our spelling mistake legend and the flip side. As always, I just assemble my 2 pages together. We are working with one easy double. To start with, we're going to need our round wood rings and a rust. Yes, the first one is going to be 2H, so rust piece. Then we're going to work on the brown woods. So we can just put tape on the back of all of these for now. Use the skew tape. No one sees it. We're going to start with this little rusty piece, 2H. And 2H goes about ½ an inch up from the bottom, just by these cards here. So it's next to the cards and just above the line of the 5. You see these little dots there with numbers. So there. This layout, I use the page as much as possible for spacing. Just makes it much easier to explain. So you're working with the paper. So try to make everything work together. Your rust piece, doesn't matter which, okay, we're doing it obviously portraits, but it doesn't matter if it's this way or this way, as long as the rust is going up and down. You see your little cards there, you see the number 5, just above the number 5. Use the numbers to make sure you're straight, and you stick it down. So that is 2H. Then we are going to move on to the nice big wood piece, which is going to overlap ever so slightly. And then we are going to line it up with the second to bottom line on the page. I love these bottom lines on the page. Makes my life so much easier. Don't have to measure, don't have to make sure we're straight. Just use the line. Okay, here we go. Nice brown wood piece. So overlap the rust ever so slightly, line up with the top of those bottom lines, and stick it down. That is 2I in place now. Then we're going to take 2J. So 2J. Lining up with the bottom of 2I, the illusion of one long piece, and it's going to be stuck next to the number 27 at the bottom. It's next to the number 27, obviously lined up with that bottom line. You will go over the arrow ever so slightly. And there we go. So we have now put in 2J. Next piece is 2K. 2K. Starting on the right-hand side. K is about 5 inches from the bottom. Just from the bottom. And midway over that faded 2. Midway over the faded 2. So it does overlap the little everyday tag, but not the lettering itself. Just make sure it's nice and straight. You can the lines up nice, straight at the top here. And there we go. That's 2K. So we have done 2H, I, J, and K. Now we are going to move on to the white piece. So we're moving on to 2E. 2E is going to come approximately here, further over. Again, I'm using the paper itself. So you have this little black element down here. I've just put it inside of that. So we have really half of the pole by lining up with a horizontal beam. So there's a tape on it. This big piece. Remember, it's a square, but we do want the rectangles to be landscape. Working with this little piece here for spacing. So there's a little cross beam. So just above that little cross beam, about halfway through that beam. Okay, now we're going to have to be careful when checking if it's straight. Check along the line of the wood grain. The wood grain looks straight. And there we go. 2E is in. Next up will be 2C. Right, 2C is obviously for the main photo. Get it on the back. I have left a little space on either side to tuck under some fussy cut elements. So we'll need to do a bit later. We're going to overlap the white ever so slightly. And this gets lined up just below that top, or the second top white line. So just do it like that. And that's 2C in place. It's also going to fill up quite nicely now. Then we have 2F and 2G. 2F and 2G. And our little frame that needs to come in. This is all now just working with the spacing that we have left. So here you'll need to be a bit careful. I did a little bit of a sneaky thing here to have the illusion that it was going underneath. I've just snipped off so I could tuck it under, but I still wanted the star. So I'm just going to cut those off. Let's pick it up a bit more. And the top one also is going to get tucked under. So line it up again just with this beam things. So it's going to look like that. We don't want to cover the legend, although it is spelled incorrectly. So I'm just going to lift where we left space for the fussy cutting. See, the joys of leaving a little space. Just fit my ruler in there. A bit of space. And I'm going to stick this one. Make sure there's space. Actually going to manipulate it a bit more. Just goes off. I'll be using this a little bit. It should be easier to put it in. It just goes in gently. I don't want to be too rough with the paper. Right. So it's feeding in out of the paper there. Now it's a little bit below position where it's like that. Okay, so that's where we're wanting it to be. It's going to be tricky positioning it once I've got the glue in place. So in situations like these, I don't particularly like using wet glue when sending my layouts, but when it's going to be tricky to position them, I'd rather have a little bit of warping in my paper because of the wet glue than have something torn apart because I stuck it down and I had to pick it up and stuck it down, pick it up. So I just add a bit of wet glue. The Tombos, sorry, I don't know if you saw, Tombos have the little top and then they have the big top. I'm not going to squeeze now. I'm just going to use this end to smear what was in there, just so not too much moisture is in one spot. I'm not squeezing, just as like a paintbrush that I don't have to clean afterwards. to avoid as much warping as I can. I shouldn't actually be working on that either. It's asking for trouble. Also doing this, it will dry quite quickly, but obviously not as quickly as just double-sided tape. Nice little tool to use. That gives me a little bit of time to manipulate it into where I want it to go. Open this up again. Okay. Notice I haven't stuck. Shouldn't have. Okay, I did put glue on there by accident. I shouldn't have put glue on the back of Superstar because the photo is obviously going to be going there. So all I'm doing now is taking some of the waxing paper from the back of my double-sided tape and just putting it down there so it doesn't stick down before I put my photo in place. So a little hack. It's handy to use if you forget. You put glue on something. So you have a little bit of wiggle room, just a little bit, just to make it go where I want it to go. Okay, the wax paper won't stay like that easily, so you just got to work carefully around it. Right, so we've got that in place without too much drama. Now we're going to put 2F and 2G in place. So sometimes having a little bit of a messy work environment helps. Things were just lying on the counter. These little wax strips are very, very handy in those situations, especially with the green Tombow glue, because it will go like, sounds horrible, but it goes like snotty. So when you're ready to put your photo down, you can put your photo down, remove the little waxy strips, and it will stick on your photo. You won't have to put more glue on it. So 2G is going to line up with the bottom of the two lines. And we are going to line it up with the side of that title. So the bottom of the two lines and the side. So it goes nice and straight down there. And there we go. 2G is in place. Next one is 2F. So 2F, this. It's going to be 1¼ of those little rectangular blocks up from the bottom and up like that. This little one needs to have its photo put in before we can stick it down. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut a scrap piece of paper to back it for now, so you can see the general look. So this is just a scrap piece, just trim down. But if you have your photo, just put your photo in, and then you can stick it in place. So you can see what the completed item is going to look like. See, narrow tape again on the outside. Stuff the photo in. A bit tricky on a smaller frame, but they will make it work. damaged. You don't have to do this step because your photo should go in here. I'm not going to use the same photos I used before, so just putting it in here for now. And it's going to line up with the top of the metal with the rust and be stuck in that position. Take in place. Lining up. Bigger gap. There we go. There. Remaining pieces. 2D. I'm going to go there. So 2D, have a nice border all the way around it. And then a little journaling block. That's a little bit. Right. I'm going to do the glue thing again. Just move it a bit. Just smear it about the end. Get through. And I just line the globe up with the right hand side of the main photo. The F, C, D, and E. Right. So that is that layout assembled. Second double layout assembled. I'll show you the end result. There we go, that's the end result. I will run through the chipboard. The acetate is quite easy. Obviously, these were fussy cut elements that I stuck on. That's it on that one. But I'll definitely show you the chipboards a bit later. I'll do all the chipboards together at the end, just to show you how I colored them. But obviously, this part now, you need to play and start making your own clusters, putting your own feel on. If you don't like the stars, put something else there. The acetate on this collection was really nice to work with. You'll see on the next layout, I really made use of this grungy thing. But these stars are just so cool to put here. Here are the numbers I was talking about. So that was when I said Kayla was in grade 3. So that's the number there. It's really a cute little acetate to use. Oh, here's Word Awesome. This acetate special. It's a little girl I was telling you about who really played her heart out last year. It adds just a little more interest to your layout. But there is your second layout assembled. Moving it. All right. Next up is our last double layout. There we go. My grade 7 last year of junior school. Can you believe it? My little girl. So there's acetate white. You've got this, grade 7. All right, that's where I saw my acetate is using it. Just cut it up and put it in places. Well, we can get cracking on this layout now. Just loads of fun. Clear the space again. And it should be a bit more workspace for you now. So we are now working on pile 3. Pile 3. You guys are all still awake with me. Right, pile 3. So again, the usual situation. I do my doubles. Just join them up. There we go. There is our base. Fantastic. There is our special bits that we would need for this one is really that frame, and the other things can be stuck on later. So the first thing we're going to use and stick down are going to be our rust pieces. So that's H and I, 3H and I. So we're going to put tape on the back of them to start with. And with this one, you do need to keep in mind that I slipped some acetate behind. So make sure you leave a gap. What does Julia call it? The little tuck spot, I think she called it. It's really cute. Definitely always leave a tuck spot. Even if you don't think you're going to slip something underneath, you might just. So you may as well just leave a tuck spot. First piece, make sure you need the right instructions. First piece is going to be I, 3I. 3I is going about ½ an inch in. So I'm going to grab my pencil, ½ an inch in from the right. This little pencil out, no one will see it but you. And about 2 3/4 from the bottom. 2 3/4. So I was about right. So for those who don't want to measure, and probably how I initially did it, was you've got your colored section, and you have 1, 2, 3 rectangles, and it's about halfway through the 4th rectangle up. Make sense? So 1, 2, 3. The 4th one is on the top line. So your line 1, line 2, line 3 touches that line, and it's about halfway across it. So 1, 2, 3, halfway across. And we're going to stick it using the lines. Just try to stay as straight as possible. There we go. Next one is going to be 3H. It's also half an inch from the side and about 2 3/4 from the bottom. So let's just check 2 3/4, 2 3/4. Right, so we're lining it up with my dots. So it's going to be, you've got that nice rusty area again. Block 1, 2, 3. That third line, about halfway, it is a bit faded. So you just look, so it's about half an inch in from the left-hand side. So if you look across your page, the 2 rust pieces will line up at the bottom. Should line up at the top as well, but just work from the bottom for now. And then line up with side pieces. And there we go. 2 rust pieces are in place. So I'm going to take them off. H and I. Next up is going to be the D's. I made them both D's. Who knows why, but I made them both D's. Right. So let's put tape on the back of both D's. I'm a little bit funny when it comes to too much of a tuck spot. I don't want my paper flapping and getting damaged, you know, out of sleeves and things. So I'm just going to put another little strip just to make sure it's still secure, but without taking too much space. Right. Okay. So please just make sure your letters are facing the right way around. We joke about things like this, but we all make mistakes. Okay, so this one is now going to be about 1 inch in from the left-hand side. So there's your inch in. And it lines up. But it overlaps, actually goes under the metal ever so slightly. Just going to take the ruler again and just lift. See that tuck spot? It's coming in handy. Thanks, Juliet. We'll use our tuck spots. So we set about 1 inch in. And just tucked underneath. Down up. Letters all facing the right way. And voila. In. Then we're going to take the other D, the small d. Quite funny, we have Denny Heaslip's husband and my husband are both Dennis's, for those who are new to the brand. Otherwise, everybody else does know. So when we're touring together, there's Dennis 1 and Dennis 2. So it's D1, D2. Maybe that's what I was thinking. There's little d and big D. I'm not sure which one's which, but we'll go with that. I was thinking of them. Okay. Now I'm going to go put this one. Just want to make sure. 1 1/4. 1 1/4 roughly. Actually goes up a little bit, doesn't it? Put that. So it's 3. Okay, so let's actually go up to the globe. Something's not quite right yet. So up to the 3, the central of the 3, and we're going to stick it there. Okay. So you can take the D's off. Next will be our dark wood, J and K. J and K. So let's put tape on the back of those. Start with J first. J. Place just under the arrow, overlapping the metal, the rust. This is a line there. So you have your 3 globes. There's an empty column. So we're moving to the next column, just under the arrow. Make sure it's all nice and straight. Use your grid to make sure you're straight. And you can stick it down. 3K. It's going to be a little bit different. is, so you got your triangles, you got your half, full, full, and there's a point. Point of that one, it's just off the point of that one. Point of the one. And line. Second line, just measure to make sure. It's about 1 1/4 up in the bottom, 1 1/4. Yep. There we go. And the point and the point. Perfect. Use your grid to make it nice and straight. Okay, something went wrong there. Sorry, don't stick it down. Actually needs to go slightly over. There we go. That's what's going on. So it needs to just overlap the numbers there, or the letters, in that same line. There we go. Perfect. Right. Next one is 3L. We're going to rotate it, so the wood is going to be going vertically. So do 3L. Tape on it. So I'm just going to actually rotate it on here. So actually it's going to be 7 by 9. Going to be portrait. This one is now going to join up these two, close up that gap. And it comes just above those triangles. See where that halfway line is. Overlaps there. And to fill in that space. Just nice and straight. We got 3 L's in place. Now we are left with C, F, and G. C, F, and G. So G is going to be coming like that. C like that. And F like that. So we can put tape on all of them and we'll stick them in place. So let's start with the right-hand side one. So this wood goes just over the bottom, just filling in the gaps between the rust and the letters. It goes in place like that. Let's do this one. Let's do this one first. Very, very central. Up and down. And down. Just going to line up the top of that one. See, tucks in at the 4 there. Nice marker. There we go. So that's 3, C, F, and G. Now, this one is going to be stuck down here. And then we're going to find that quote. So now we're needing a landscape quote. It's this one. Right, so obviously your photo still needs to go underneath this. So I'm going to put a thin line of tape around. And this goes on here. Then on the layout, I just simply joined a fussy cut. Fussy cut strip to extend it. Found where we join nicely, and I just extended it with a fussy cut strip. All right, so I'm just going to stick the title in place. I had to narrow my frame quite a lot because of the photos. I'm going to show you a little hack to put it on if you don't have your photo ready yet. Just stick this one first, so we know more or less spacing. Remember to keep that runner up the side there. Okay, so all I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to put tape along here. I'm going to put tape on the others, but I'm not going to take the protective coating off. I'll only do that once my photo has been put in place. Just put a bit of a sneaky one. When you're in class, you really don't have time, well, generally, I don't, definitely, to actually put your photos on. So this is a nice little hack to remember if you're doing a class. You know that you've got the photos, you just haven't had a chance to print them or size them or edit or whatever the case may be. So these ones we are going to leave on. It's just this nice big fat guy. We're going to stick him down, lining up with the right side. So you can put your photo in and stick it down. So that is layout number 3. Double layout number 3. Right, so the finished one again. Here we go. So the acetates there, just a little bit of stamping for the journaling. This has been from the fussy cut sheets, part that we actually salvaged. And we cut 2 of those pages and only used half of them. So I fussy cut this and I just put them on foam tape here to give them a bit of dimension, and then a little strippy up there as well. Acetate, I'm quite lazy. So with the acetate, I get it and I'll go get the broadest double-sided tape I've got. And I'll just put it next to each other on the whole back of the acetate. I don't know what I'm going to be using it. I don't know how I'm going to be using it. So take the whole thing out and just cover the back with double-sided, the thickest I've got, but right next to each other, not overlapping, just right next to each other. And then when I use something, I cut it out once and the tape's already behind it. So that's how this has already been taped. And when you peel the tape off and you rub it on the layouts, you can't see the tape because it's over the whole back. Same with the 7. That comes in really handy. See that little blobs. All of it's got tape. So there's no difference where the tape is or isn't because it's all got tape. So with the dots, I just cut it up into sections and use my little tuck spots and tucks it in. So congratulations, you have finished layout, well, not finished the construction of layout 3. We have 2 singles to go. I think we're doing really well. The singles come together pretty quickly. So I think let's go for it. And then I'll show you the coloring of the chipboard. I won't put the chipboard on, but just a little hints and tips. And then it's playtime. So we are going to work on pile 4, which is for this single layout. My boy, who won the Cultural Award and the Chess Award for the junior phase last year. Represented our district, Celebr8 for chess. Very, very proud of him. Again, the journaling block, very important. I was telling you about the acetate. Once again, it's the same with acetate. So let's start on our first single. There is our base. And we are going to work with dotty first. So it was 5C, it's actually meant to be 4C. Tape. Let's just put tape on the back of all of them, leaving tuck spots. Make assembling a lot quicker. So tuck spots is just a rim around the edge. Just be stuck into. For this one, you will need a pencil and a ruler just for finding your spacing. Fortunately, with a black piece of paper as a backing, we don't have markers I can use. That adds for a nice dramatic background. So there we all got tape. This should go nice and quick. Right, so we're using what was 5C, it's now 4C, the little dotty piece. Grab a pencil and a ruler. And we are going to measure 4 inches from the right. Just my right pencil mark. And 3/4 of an inch from the bottom, roughly there. So you do a little dot at the join. That is going to be your bottom left corner with your paper going landscape. Just show you. My little dots there. Bottom left corner. Making my paper as straight as possible. So I'm going to just measure on this side as well. 3/4. And down it goes. Then we're going to go for 4G. This time it's going to be about 1/4 of an inch in from the left side. And I think it's about 1/4 inch from the top. Yeah, about 1/4 inch from the top. So roughly there. Now these aren't precise measurements. These are made from the leftovers. So 1/4 and 1/4. Please just remember to check your numbering that it's facing the right way around. So we are obviously doing landscapes. The rectangles are facing landscape. Find your little dots. Make it as square as possible. And stick it in. Next up are our wood grains. Okay, they're exactly the same, so it doesn't matter which one we'll use where. First one, we are going to measure 1 inch from the right. 1 inch from the right. And approximately 2 inches from the top. 1 inch from the right, 2 inches from the top. Okay, so there's my pencil mark. So I'm going to do a little cheat. Use my pencil mark. And I'm doing 2 inches, 1, 2. That should be my point there. And I'm going to stick my first wood grain there. Just want to check if it's straight. Again, it's a plain piece of paper. So I'm going to just slide your ruler from the top into the bottom. Make sure it's semi-straight. Okay, we're going to do the next wood piece. Measuring again. So this time it is approximately 2 3/4 in from the left. Okay, and I can't see the top. I'll be in line. So in line with that one. So use your ruler as a little bit of a guide. And here's my pencil mark. Guide. So straight. And there we go. That's 4, D, and E in place. Next up is what was 3M, now 4M. I don't know how I got that so badly wrong. All right, this one, we're going to be joining the wood and the dots. It's filling up that space. Just check my ruler again. So it's about 1 inch in from the left. And about 1 and just under 1.5 from the bottom. So just have to be exact, 1.5. So we're roughly right spot there. So just covering the bottom of that and the top of that. So we're covering the bottom of the wood. Yep. Dots. Try as straight as possible. And use the dots to see how much you're cutting off of it. Sort of straight. That one's in place. Then we are moving on to this one. 4B, which is going to fill up the remainder of the gap. So the goal of 4B is to join the 2 wood grains, fill in that gap. So it goes above, joins the 2 wood grains. A little bit of a gap at the top there. And like that. Obviously, there's fussy cut elements that need to go onto this layout to finish it. Just to show you the difference when you just put in, let's say, just put in the suitcases. Falls in that space there. And you put in amazing. Your photo going here. It all starts to come together. I'm not going to put them in place yet because I'm also going to fuss with single layouts. I like to give a bit more definition and detail. This again was a barcode strip. Look how lovely does it fit in like this. Fussy cut elements, that was also from a barcode strip. So that is your first single done. Just remove these. Not bad. And finally, number 5. This cute one. Legend spelled correctly here, just noting. Right, so we are finally on the last pile, pile 5. Pile 5 is our last project for the evening. Just want to piece this out. So we are going to start with 5E and F. They are the same, so it doesn't matter which one you do. Again, pencil and ruler just to mark your points. So this one is about just over 1 inch in from the bottom. and about 1.5 inches from the side. 1.5. Roughly there. So I should put tape on first, yeah. Just going to make my little mark a bit darker, so I don't have to remeasure. These little markers like I've done, all you do when you stick the paper on is just make sure you cover over it. That's going to be the point that's covered. Little point, and I'm just going to cover it. Yeah, the dotty paper, you can see how much of the dot you cover. So you see it's like just a sliver showing there, which means I'm going straight. And stick it down. And 3/4 in from the side. These are all just about the side and roughly just over 1 in from the bottom. So roughly there. Watching my dots, seeing that I'm cutting them off at the same place. There we go. While I'm here, and I did an incorrect marker, I'll just rub it out as best I can. Right, so that is E and F down. Then we go on to, let's go on to B and D. B and D. A bit of rough spacing for everybody. That one. Right, let's just put tape on the back of all of them. We can assemble it nice and quick. Nice. So B is going at the top. and D is going at the bottom. We keep in mind, it's the only thing that's going to be filling the gap apart from B and D is J. So we need to make sure that there's no spaces in between. So we're first going to take D, take the tape off the back. It's about 2.5 squares in from the outside of that. And about 2 squares down, 2.5 squares, or rectangle, should I say. And so basically line them up flush with the right hand side and about 2 blocks down. See, now we've already filled in that space. The pressure's off now. We're going to now put in the other side. Still want to see this paper. So let's just put it in place like that. And then we are going to line it up with that side. And put it down. Okay, we're not going to stick J yet. There we go. Next up is H. H is going to overlap slightly there. So it's ever so slightly overlapping. H. There, there, and then it's about a black block from the top. So we have it ever so slightly overlapping here, ever so slightly overlapping here. So that's our spacing here and here. It should overlap slightly. Now we're going to take 5G. And then the other side. Same situation. Filling in gaps. So we are going to overlap ever so slightly. And it's about 2 blocks down. There we go, yeah. And stick it down. Let's get these tags. Then move on to what was 5Gs, now 5I, the wood grain. And we are overlapping just to add a bit more interest. So overlap the chevron wood, the beige, and the white. Do some lettering, put it opposite corner. Just the right way around again. We are going to overlap all of them. Bit of space, make approximately the same as the other side, but you have a tiny overlap here on the bottom, but a decent overlap there. You want to just check. Yeah, I'm going to take up all of it. And there we go. So that is 5I and 5C. And then J fits in the middle. So J fills in that gap now, making it as even as possible on either side. And you stick it down. Actually, I don't think I've cut the frame that I was needing, which is this one. So it's complete this layout. I use the legend frame, which I'm sure I have cut out, so it might be lying around somewhere. And I stuck that on top. It goes there. So that's what the end result looks like. That's barcode strip again. This was from the back of the cover. Fussy cut element. Those arrows that I said to you I used only once. They're here. And that is the layout done. I'm going to just give the desk a quick clean, and then I'll show you what I did with the chipboard, and then we will be done. See you in a minute. Right, onto the chipboard. For the chipboard, I only used a total of 4 colors. I used a bright copper. These are all-purpose inks. You're welcome to use brilliance. I like to have a little bit of a shimmer with these ones. It's quite metallic, but any color you want to use. This is just a guide. So I use bright copper. I used Vegas gold. I use just a plain white and a plain black. To start with, I'm going to show you the globes. I'm not going to do all of them because they're all done in the same way. Give you an idea what I did. I didn't use any of the smaller globes on any of the projects. I will still be using them. So firstly, I painted the actual element and outside of the globe with the gold. If you're using a little ink pad of sorts, a Versa or a Brilliance, just squish it down onto the plastic and spritz it with water, and then you'll be able to move it around with a paintbrush as well, or a Fantastics tool. Just very simply, back to school, color in the lines. The gold just made it look like it was glowing a little bit. So I'm just going to show you one set. Because they're all like this. Gold. Used copper. Coloring chipboard for a certain project, keep the project colors in mind. It doesn't make sense to suddenly throw in red or a color that will be even like a bright orange wouldn't make sense, because the layout doesn't have any of those colors in it yet. If your photo brings in those colors, I'll stick with the colors that you find on the paper. All right, the copper, and finally the hangy bits with the black. right, so that's one set of the globes, which you just repeat and do over and over again. So that's all I did for the globes on the whole sheet. Nice and easy. Titles were done a little bit differently, each layout. So I'm going to go with, I'm going to show you something. Just because this layouts, now this chipboard says life is short, focus on what matters, doesn't mean you have to use the whole chipboard. I found it a bit depressing when I was looking at photos of my kids to say life is short. Their life has still got a long way ahead of them. It's far from short for them. Well, that's my wish for them. But what was important for me was focus on what matters. So I just cut focus on matters and only use that. I didn't even use this part. Some places will be appropriate, but I don't want to say that about my kids. Like, life is not short for them. They have a huge future ahead of them. It's not short in any matter of means. So when you have a chipboard and you like only half the title and it makes sense by itself, only use half the title. You really don't have to. This life is short could be used for something else. We could have smell the roses or anything else underneath that. But for this particular layout, was of my daughter achieving at school, I was like, no, it's not short. It's a grand adventure and she's going to live it up. So I only used the bottom half. When you're coloring chipboard, I like to color it, if possible, still in its frame. It just gives me something to press on without touching the ink that I've used. So for the lettering, I'm just using that same copper that I'd used before in the globes. Colors that work with this collection. In any small paintbrush, Fantastics tool. These brushes I'm using are actually for nails. And they come in really handy. They're nice and gentle and smooth to work with. And they don't cost an arm and a leg. As I'm not particularly good at cleaning my equipment in time before it's ruined. So just gently. Now the lines are going to be a different color. The concept's the same on another part of it. So I do all what I want in one color first. But now if there's a line, I'll try and get as close to that line as possible. Oh, sorry, in the camera. Without going into it. And I try to use the thicker ink first. So if you've got like a watery ink, like a dye ink, I'll use that last because that kind of bleeds into the chipboard around it. With this thicker ink needs to rather sit, so as a pigment ink sits on the top instead of seeping in and almost bleeding into the next layer or next section. It's just one of my little things that I do. This as well with another title. You've got this. The writing in one color and the lines I think I did in white and the stars in gold. Have a look at the layout quickly. Yeah. Just so you get the idea. As close to that line as possible. I've got far from a steady hand, so it won't be perfect. everything I wanted on this type of copper. It's now copper, so now I can move on to the next color, which is going to be black. And the black tends to bleed a little bit. So it's a good example. I'll show you my bleeding. That was where the paintbrush was, just touching there, and it runs out. Where the gold brush was touching there, it hasn't really run out. The copper as well hasn't really run much. So I'm going to dip it in and just take off any excess. So it has a tendency to run. Now I'm just going to take from about there. So while the brush is super wet, I'm going to stay away from the letters as much as possible. See, the wetter the brush, the more bleeding there will be. And I'm just touching with the edge of the brush, so not too much ink is actually touching chipboard. Just try to prevent bleeding. Nervous the brush has got too much ink in it. Just lightly touch it. There we go. Which you can touch up as much as you want. But that's how I do the lines one color and the words another color. So that title was used there for my daughter. Example of what I had to do with the globes. Same technique that I showed you, copper and the black line. Again, this is the same technique, but copper with the white line. And I did something a little bit different on Live Your Best Life. I don't think the camera will pick it up too well. See if I can. It looks a little bit mottled. It's gold and black together. So I'll show you what I did. Okay, we've already used the paintbrush for gold. So I'm going to just stick it back in the gold. So it's the gold paintbrush in the gold. Take a bit extra. So it's a pigment with some nice shiny bits. I'm just going to Live Your Best Life. Dry it off on the chipboard that I'm going to be coloring anyway. So any excess just goes on there. Messy, I know, but you'll see. Okay, so now there's no excess on the brush that will come off when I stick it in my black. All the excess is off. So I'll show you here. Nothing's really coming off. So I'm going to stick it in the black. And I'm just going to go wild. Because now the black, because it's so runny, dilutes the thicker pigment paint and spreads it around a bit more. So you end up with the gold covering more sections and just popping through the black, even though the black cover is much thicker than gold. Gives it its mottle effect and still have a little shimmer. but the majority black. Nice, quick and easy technique just to add something different to your project. And quite honestly, I figured this one out because I was too lazy to clean my paintbrush. And I saw how it came out. I was quite happy with it. So I'm using it now. Just waiting for it to dry a little bit. So live your best life. Let's see if I can get it to focus a bit better for you. It's not really, but there we go. So it's a bit mottled, but still black, a bit of gold. Those are only two techniques I used on the chipboard. Nothing too complicated. Lots of fun. I'll upload photos of the projects so you can see the fussy cut elements. Where did I stick the acetate? How I did the chipboard? Well, where did I stick the chipboard? What color I used? But this is where you need to add your spin on it. Make it fun. Make it more appropriate for the photos you're using. But I've had lots of fun with this layout. Hopefully I get to teach you guys again. Thanks for joining me. And always thank you for your support. We really appreciate all the lovely crafters who use our brand. And I hope to see you guys in person one day, again, someday, when it's all possible. Thanks again.